Hello and welcome to the Daily Briefing for Wednesday, June the 10th, as Cordova continues through the 14th week of response to the pandemic. I'm J.R. Lewis, glad to have you with us on the Clam and the Eagle. 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. hours are home to our daily briefing. They are also archived at youtube.com/Cordova TV, so they can be shared if you would like, or listen to later, whatever is more convenient. We're pleased to have Mayor Koplin back again today, and that's who we'll be visiting with on today's Daily Briefing. Mayor Koplin, let's start our visit today with testing numbers, always an interesting part of what's going on. What are they telling you?
Well, we continue to administer a lot of tests. We've conducted 670 tests now. 658 have come back negative. We have results pending on 11, and then we have the one positive case that's fully recovered.
Okay.
So no new cases.
So still pretty good. That's what we want to see. And, it's interesting, too. Obviously, we're in week 14 of the response, and I'm wondering what's life like with the IMT these days? I mean, obviously it had to have been chaos in the early days, but you go to these meetings. What kind of a mode are they in?
Well, the incident management team is actually, I think, a lot busier and doing a lot more footwork than people realize. The gradual reopening has almost a facility by facility, a park by park, a service by service assessment of what is safe, what is the highest level of service that we can provide without introducing new risks. And so things as simple as reopening parks and playgrounds, just making sure that we provide access to those facilities and again, the needed recreation and exercise without introducing risks. And then some of the longer term, we did a lot of planning and put a lot of pieces in place for emergency shelters, quarantine areas, mutual aid agreements. So we're constantly assessing and reassessing how long do we keep those in place, when do we look at taking some of these down, if at all. So there's actually a lot of footwork going on. And in fact, I would say that's one of the reasons that we've kind of reduced the number of meetings. We're now down to just one incident management team a week.
Right.
And we had one this morning, actually. And we're also looking at maybe backing off a little bit on the communications.
But of course, everybody's, I'm sure, on an email list, and if something big comes up, then you can all convene at the drop of a hat, right?
Well, absolutely. And the day-to-day work of maintaining the website, of answering the helplines at 424-INFO and 424-WELL, and then the business support and questions are all in full progress.
Sure. Yeah. Development of those assets was a big part of the response. And in fact, I mentioned, I don't even remember what day it was because I never know what day it is, but I think I was right at the beginning of the week that actually we're going to be moving into daily briefings 2.0 here a little bit. The public information officers, that part of the IMT has said there really isn't enough new to necessarily put out, say, a new briefing every day. So what we do here is actually going to be modified some, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're looking at, we've kind of reduced to one weekly press briefing on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. And we're also looking at maybe trimming back on even the radio updates to perhaps 3 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, as things change, as need arises, as new information becomes available, we may want to ramp that back up or have some special engagements. But we're trying to strike a balance between constantly reminding and to be vigilant and repeating the rules and any modifications. We're trying to balance that with not exhausting people with just repeating the same information over and over. So working on striking a balance.
Sure. Well, and I still, as I mentioned to our listeners, I may still use that time when I'm not meeting with somebody from the team like yourself or Kathy Sherman or whoever. I might use the time to visit with Dr. Sanders or read a news release from the state or something like that. So I'll probably continue to do something. But again, it's moving into a different phase, because the situation continues to evolve. Again, it's very different at week 14 than it was at week 2 or 3 or 5. We still got some time here. I'm curious that we've been getting more news. It's being reported in the press, and of course, I get the direct news releases about this evolving situation on the Tustamina, which has to be sort of interest to people here, being a community on the ferry system, such as it is right now, and we can leave that aside or not as you see fit. But as you see now, where they sort of, it would appear to have at least a mini outbreak situation. How do you look at that from the standpoint of Cordova?
Well, between the Tustamina outbreak and the Whittier outbreak, I think it's a reminder that the rules do work. If you wear your masks, if you sanitize surfaces, if individuals sanitize, a ferry is a recipe for disaster. You have a lot of people living in a common space, eating in common spaces for hours, and especially on that southwest run out to Dutch Harbor, at times for days, stopping at multiple communities. So I'm not going to say it was inevitable, but it did happen. Unfortunately, if that ferry goes out of service, if they have a case on board, the ferry's going to be out of service. And so kind of like on the USS Teddy Roosevelt. So really, I think for Cordova, in our perspective, because our ferry is still scheduled to come that first week of July, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, we need to take precautions and treat it just like walking in and out of a business that we plan on spending several hours in. Maintain distance, watch surfaces and sanitization, sanitize before you get on and when you leave, wear your masks, and there's a good chance that you won't spread or get sick or, worse yet, infect the crew, because I guarantee we get someone on the Kennecott sick, we're probably going to see the same thing. They're going to be sidelined probably for weeks.
Yeah, well, hopefully those policies will continue to dominate behavior on, among the crew with the because I don't have the news release in front of me. Is it all crew that have tested positive?
Yes, the 6 passengers tested negative. 28 of the crew tested negative. They had 7 crew total, I think, tested positive.
Okay, so close living quarters, similar to what people expected, say, with the processors, and the processors put their protocols in place, and they have their containment efforts, which seem to work. It's just you just can't ever really hit snooze on this thing, can you?
No, and in a lot of the marine highway system, most of the employees live in Alaska, but many don't, especially in some of the senior positions. So when they do their crew changes every 1 or 2 or 4 weeks, you're cycling people coming from every different direction onto the boat, living in close quarters.
So we just need to keep doing our thing the way we're doing it, right?
That's all we can control.
All right. Well, you're about to head to the council meeting as we're speaking. I hope that goes well, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
Big thanks to Mayor Koplin for joining us again. We'll remind you quick about those phone numbers that he mentioned and are always worth mentioning again. 424-INFO puts you through to the city and somebody that you can talk to share comments and questions, as well as get a lot of information. The city also has COVID-19.cityofcordova.net, very informative website. And then the Native Village of EAC provides the phone number 424-WELL, W-E-L-L, which you can use as an information line as well to get pre-recorded details. And this was your daily briefing for June the 10th on KLAM and KCDV in the 1 p.m., 5 p.m., and 8 p.m. hours, archived for your convenience at youtube.com/Cordova TV. If you ever want to hear one again or share this information with somebody else, including those folks outside of Cordova that are trying to figure out what's going on. And we'll look forward to bringing you your regularly scheduled programming on the Clam and the Eagle.